Welcome to Radiant Wisdom, a sanctuary where stories lead us back to what truly matters. If you're seeking moments of clarity in an overwhelming world, you've come to the right place. Here we invite you to slow down, breathe, and reconnect. Before we begin, I want to take a moment to thank you for being here. Your time and attention are precious, and I hope today's story enriches your life in a meaningful way. If you enjoy content like this, remember to like, share, and subscribe. It's a small action, but it helps us continue creating stories that inspire reflection and connection. Now imagine this. You wake up on a Monday morning. Your to-do list is packed, your inbox is overflowing, and there's an endless stream of notifications lighting up your phone. Somewhere between your second cup of coffee and a hurried commute, a small thought crosses your mind. When will I finally feel at peace? You brush it off and keep moving, convinced that once you hit your next milestone, finish that project, land that promotion, buy that dream home, then you'll finally rest. But here's the question that often gets buried beneath the noise. What if peace isn't something waiting for us at the finish line? What if it's something we can choose right now? Today's story invites you to reflect on the concept of enough. It's about stepping off the relentless treadmill of more to rediscover the quiet contentment that already exists in your life. In our fast-paced, hyper-connected culture, the idea of living with enough can feel radical, but it might just be the key to the happiness we've been chasing all along. There's an old Buddhist saying that goes, "Contentment is the greatest wealth." And yet, so many of us have been conditioned to believe that contentment comes from external success, the job title, the salary, the accolades, the material possessions. But if that were true, why do so many people who have it all still feel a profound sense of emptiness? Take a moment to consider, when was the last time you felt deeply satisfied, not because you crossed something off your to-do list, but simply because you were present? When did you last pause to appreciate a sunset, a quiet morning, or the warmth of a loved one's laughter, without feeling the need to rush to the next thing? In today's story, we'll explore the power of knowing what's enough. We'll uncover why the pursuit of more often leads us further from happiness, and how choosing contentment can bring us closer to the life we've always longed for. Along the way, we'll reflect on timeless lessons from different cultures, including the story of Bhutan, a small nation that dared to measure its success not by wealth, but by happiness. This isn't about settling for less, it's about living more fully with what you already have. It's about shifting our mindset from scarcity to abundance, from fear of missing out to joy in the present. So, wherever you are right now, whether you're listening at home, on a walk, or during a quiet moment in your day, let this be your invitation to pause, to listen, to reflect, and perhaps to find a bit of yourself in the spaces between the words. Welcome to Radiant Wisdom. Let's begin. The illusion of more. Let's begin with a simple but profound question. What is enough? For many of us, the answer seems just out of reach. A little more money, a little more recognition, a little more comfort. It's a familiar narrative. If we just had a better car, a bigger house, or a higher salary, we'd finally feel complete. But have you ever noticed how quickly that feeling fades once we get what we wanted? It's like filling a cup with a crack at the bottom. It never stays full. The excitement of a new purchase, a promotion, or an achievement can lift us briefly, but soon, a restless whisper returns. What's next? This endless cycle of desire and dissatisfaction is what I call the illusion of more. It convinces us that happiness is always just one step ahead, just out of reach, like a mirage in the desert. No matter how fast or far we run, the finish line keeps moving. But why does this happen? Why isn't more ever enough? Psychologists describe something called the hedonic treadmill. It's the idea that we quickly adapt to positive changes in our lives, whether it's a financial windfall, a new relationship, or a major accomplishment. At first, we feel euphoric, our spirits soar. But after a while, that rush levels off, and we return to our baseline. The shiny new car becomes just another vehicle. The exciting new job becomes another daily grind. And soon we're back where we started, chasing the next upgrade, the next dopamine hit. There's a story in Buddhist teachings about a man who found a rare and beautiful gemstone. At first he was overjoyed. It was the most valuable thing he had ever owned. But as time passed, his joy turned into anxiety. He began to fear losing it. He worried about thieves and accidents. His mind became so consumed by protecting his treasure that he couldn't sleep at night. Eventually, he realized the stone, instead of bringing peace, had stolen his peace. In many ways, modern life reflects this story. We've filled our lives with things we thought would make us happier: new gadgets, expensive clothes, luxurious vacations. And yet, stress and anxiety levels continue to rise. We've never been more connected through technology, but loneliness has reached epidemic levels. We have more choices, more opportunities, and more comforts than any generation before us, and yet, for many, life still feels hollow. Why? Because more is an appetite that can't be satisfied. The more we feed it, the more it grows. And what's worse, it blinds us to the beauty of what we already have. Imagine this. You're walking through a park on a crisp autumn day. The leaves are brilliant shades of gold and crimson, and the air smells of earth and pine. But instead of noticing, you're scrolling through your phone, checking emails, or comparing your life to someone else's highlight reel on social media. The simple joy of the moment slips past you because your mind is elsewhere. This is what the illusion of more does. It robs us of presence. It convinces us that what we have now isn't enough, that joy is somewhere out there. But life doesn't happen out there. It happens here, now. One of the most humbling lessons I've learned is that happiness is not about accumulating more, it's about appreciating what's already here. We've been taught to ask what's missing, but perhaps a more powerful question is, what's already enough? There's a quote often attributed to the Buddha that says, "The richest person is not the one who has the most, but the one who needs the least." The truth is, more money, more possessions, or more accolades will never fill the deeper longing in our hearts. That longing isn't for material things, it's for connection, peace, and purpose. These are things that no amount of wealth can buy. As we move forward, I invite you to reflect. How much of your life have you spent chasing more? And how often has it brought you lasting peace? What if you chose instead to slow down, to be present, and to ask yourself, what if I already have enough? When we stop chasing the illusion of more, we discover something remarkable. The life we've been longing for isn't somewhere in the distant future. It's right here, waiting for us to notice. Time and wealth, a losing trade. Let me ask you this. How do you define wealth? For most people, the first thing that comes to mind is money. But let's pause for a moment and consider another perspective. What if the true currency of life isn't dollars or possessions, but time? In our pursuit of wealth, we often make an unspoken trade, time for money. We work long hours, skip meals, postpone vacations, and sacrifice weekends, all in the hopes that the rewards will justify the sacrifices. We tell ourselves it's only temporary, just until I reach my goal. But days turn into months, months into years, and before we know it, large portions of our lives have slipped away. But here's the question we often avoid asking ourselves. What are we really working for? Is it to live, or just to survive another day of deadlines, meetings, and paychecks? There's a story about a businessman and a fisherman that captures this perfectly. The businessman, on vacation, saw a fisherman resting by the shore after catching a few fish for the day. The businessman asked, "Why aren't you out there catching more fish?" The fisherman smiled and said, "I've caught enough for today. My family will eat well, and now I can relax." The businessman, puzzled, responded, "But if you caught more, you could sell them and make money. Eventually, you could buy a bigger boat, catch even more fish, and build a thriving business." The fisherman asked, "And after I've done all that, what would I do?" The businessman replied, "Then you could retire and spend your days relaxing by the shore." The fisherman laughed and said, "Isn't that what I'm already doing?" This story illustrates a profound truth. We often get so caught up in the race for financial security that we forget what we're actually racing toward. Time is the one resource we can never get back, yet many of us treat it as if it's limitless, while guarding our money as if it's precious beyond measure. But here's the irony. When we prioritize wealth over time, we often lose both. We miss family dinners, birthdays, and quiet Sunday mornings. We tell ourselves we're doing it for a better future, but what good is a secure future if we've forgotten how to live in the present? Think of someone you know who's always working. Maybe it's you. What does their life look like? Is there balance, or is there always a reason to push rest aside? Studies have shown that overwork doesn't just drain our mental health, it erodes our physical well-being. Stress illnesses, burnout, and fatigue have become modern epidemics. In Japan, the term karoshi, which means death from overwork, is a tragic reminder of what happens when the balance between time and wealth is broken. We live in a culture that often measures success by productivity. But at the end of our lives, it's not the number of hours we clocked or the size of our paycheck that will matter. It's the memories we created, the connections we nurtured, and the moments we lived fully. Imagine this. You're sitting with a loved one, enjoying a quiet evening together. There's no rush, no clock ticking in the background, no urgent need to be anywhere else. That feeling of peace, that is wealth. The poet Mary Oliver once asked, "Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?" We can always make more money, but we can never make more time. What would change if we started seeing time as our greatest asset? What if instead of trading time for wealth, we sought a life rich with experiences, presence, and connection? So, I invite you to reflect. Are you living each day as if time is a treasure, or are you letting it slip through your fingers while chasing things that may never bring you the joy you seek? Because at the end of it all, the true tragedy isn't having too little money. It's realizing too late that you had too little time. The price of sacrifice, when more becomes less. Success stories often begin with sacrifice. We hear about the late nights, the missed holidays, and the relentless grind that paved the way to victory. In fact, sacrifice is so intertwined with our idea of success that many of us accept it as the price of achievement. But what happens when that price becomes too high? We tell ourselves it's all for a greater purpose. We believe that our hard work will create a better life for our families, give our children brighter futures, and grant us the security and freedom we long for. And yes, hard work can certainly open doors, but the truth is, sacrifice doesn't always lead to fulfillment. It can also lead to regret. How many stories have we heard of parents who worked tirelessly to provide for their children, only to find themselves estranged from them later in life? They gave everything, except their time, their presence, their warmth. When their children needed someone to listen, someone to be there during the quiet moments of doubt and wonder, there was no one. In the pursuit of more, we often tell ourselves that our absence today will be justified by our success tomorrow. But life doesn't wait for tomorrow. The tender years of childhood, the quiet moments with our partners, the fleeting seasons of our lives, they all happen in the now. There's a heartbreaking irony in the way we sacrifice connection for security. We work long hours to provide a beautiful home, but no one is there to share the dinner table. We save for dream vacations that we're too busy to take. We chase promotions that come with bigger paychecks but also longer hours and heavier burdens. The very things we sacrifice for, joy, connection, peace, often become casualties of the chase. Consider this: what does a child really remember? Is it the designer clothes or the expensive toys? Or is it the bedtime stories, the laughter over board games, the simple moments when they felt seen and loved? Sacrificing everything for material gain can distort our priorities. We may believe we're doing it all for them, but children can grow up feeling disconnected and unsure of their worth, wondering if they were ever more important than the next paycheck or the next deal. As adults, they may carry wounds from what was missing: affection, attention, the sense of belonging. But it's not just about children, it's about all of us. Our relationships, whether with our partners, our friends, or ourselves, require care, not just provisions. Emotional connection cannot be outsourced. Love isn't something we can schedule into a free hour between meetings. There's an old saying, be careful not to become so busy making a living that you forget to make a life. At the end of the day, what we crave most isn't the next big achievement. It's to feel understood, valued, and loved. Wealth without connection creates emptiness. Success without shared joy is hollow. In Japan, there's a concept called ikigai, meaning the reason for being. It's the idea that true purpose lies where our passion, our talent, and our sense of contribution intersect. And often, that purpose is found not in grand achievements, but in small, meaningful moments. The ones that happen when we slow down long enough to notice. Imagine someone nearing the end of their life. In their final reflections, they don't talk about their bank balance or their promotions. They talk about love. They remember the people who made them feel alive. They long for the moments when they were fully present, unburdened by distractions. So, here's a question for you. What are you sacrificing today? And is what you're gaining worth what you're giving up? Sacrifice is often necessary, but when it becomes constant, when it costs us our relationships, our joy, and our peace of mind, then we have to pause and ask ourselves, am I trading too much for too little? True success isn't measured by what we've accumulated. It's measured by how deeply we've lived and how generously we've loved. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do isn't to work harder, it's to step back, to reconnect, and to remind ourselves that life's greatest riches aren't found in what we own, but in how we show up for the people who matter. The misconception of success. In today's world, success has become a carefully curated image, a highlight reel of achievements, luxury, and recognition. We see it everywhere. The executive with a corner office, the influencer with a perfect vacation photo, the entrepreneur celebrating yet another milestone. It's easy to believe that this is the blueprint for a meaningful life. But beneath the surface, there's often a different story, a story of exhaustion, isolation, and quiet disillusionment. So let's pause and ask an important question. What is success, really? For many, success means financial security, prestige, and power. But why? Where did we learn that our worth is tied to how much we achieve or how much we own? If we peel back the layers, we'll often find that this definition of success isn't one we consciously chose. It was shaped by societal expectations, cultural narratives, and sometimes even fear. From a young age, we're taught to strive, to get good grades, land a stable job, and climb the ladder. And while there's nothing wrong with ambition, the problem arises when our entire sense of self-worth becomes entangled in outcomes and applause. Let me share a story with you. There was a man who spent his whole life chasing success. He was admired by colleagues, celebrated by his industry, and known for his relentless drive. But on his 50th birthday, surrounded by expensive gifts and a lavish celebration, he felt an unexpected hollowness. As he looked around at the crowd, he realized that he barely knew the people who were there, and the people he cared about most weren't in the room. It hit him like a wave. In chasing an image of success, he had lost touch with the very things that made life meaningful. His success had come at the expense of true connection and inner peace. This story isn't uncommon. In fact, it's happening all around us. Burnout has become a badge of honor. Sacrificing sleep, health, and relationships in the name of productivity is seen as dedication. But what we rarely talk about is the price of this relentless chase. Success, when defined solely by external rewards, often leaves us feeling isolated and unfulfilled. Consider this. If your idea of success requires you to sacrifice your health, your relationships, and your peace of mind, is it truly success? Or is it survival in disguise? In Japan, there's a term called tsundoku. It refers to the habit of accumulating books but never reading them. I think of this as a metaphor for our obsession with accolades and possessions. We collect accomplishments the way some people collect unread books, not to savor them, but to display them. But what's the point of stacking achievements if we never pause to live the life we're building? One of the biggest misconceptions about success is that it's a destination, a point we reach where everything will finally feel complete. But success isn't a finish line, it's a moment-to-moment experience of living in alignment with our values. True success isn't about how much you've accumulated, it's about who you've become along the way. The Dalai Lama once said, "Man sacrifices his health in order to make money, then he sacrifices money to recuperate his health. And then he is so anxious about the future that he does not enjoy the present, the result being that he does not live in the present or the future. He lives as if he is never going to die, and then dies having never really lived." This wisdom is a reminder that success, when viewed through the wrong lens, can become a trap. It can distract us from life's most precious moments, the simple, quiet joys that don't show up on resumes or social media feeds. Imagine a version of success that isn't tied to how much you've produced, but to how much you've grown. A version of success that values laughter at the dinner table, time spent in nature, and the courage to rest without guilt. So here's an invitation. Reclaim success on your own terms. Let it reflect your values, not someone else's expectation. Let it be measured by how present you are in your life, not by how impressive you appear to others. Because in the end, success isn't about being celebrated, it's about being at peace. It's about reaching the end of the day or the end of your life and knowing you lived fully, loved deeply, and stayed true to who you are. Bhutan, a lesson in enough. Let's take a moment to shift our focus to a small nation nestled in the Himalayas, a place that has become a symbol of a radical idea: happiness over wealth. Bhutan, a country often referred to as the last Shangri-La, offers the world a powerful lesson in the art of enough. Unlike most nations that measure success by gross domestic product, GDP, Bhutan measures its progress by something far more profound: gross national happiness. This idea isn't just a catchy slogan, it's a guiding principle that shapes government policies, education, healthcare, and even environmental protection. You see, Bhutan's leaders ask themselves a fundamental question: what's the point of economic growth if it doesn't lead to happier, healthier lives? And from that simple yet revolutionary question came a bold answer: growth must serve the people, not the other way around. Now, to be clear, Bhutan is not a wealthy nation by material standards. Many of its citizens live simple lives, working as farmers, artisans, or teachers. But despite this, or perhaps because of it, Bhutan consistently ranks as one of the happiest nations in the world. And why? Because the people of Bhutan have embraced the idea that true wealth isn't found in possessions, but in connection. Their days are filled with rituals of gratitude and community. They prioritize time with family, quiet reflection, and harmony with nature. Instead of asking, "How can I get more?" they ask, "How can I live well?" In contrast, many wealthier nations, despite their economic power, grapple with rising rates of anxiety, depression, and loneliness. It's a sobering reminder that material abundance doesn't automatically translate to emotional well-being. We build bigger houses, but have fewer conversations. We buy more entertainment, but still feel bored. We earn more, yet somehow feel poorer in time, energy, and peace of mind. But how did Bhutan resist the global trend of endless accumulation? How did they learn to say, "This is enough"? Part of their wisdom lies in their deep connection to Buddhist principles, which emphasize impermanence, mindfulness, and compassion. The Bhutanese are taught from a young age to reflect on life's fragility, not to inspire fear, but to inspire presence. They understand that every moment is precious and fleeting, so rather than racing toward a distant future, they fully inhabit the present. Their cultural values also prioritize environmental stewardship, recognizing that nature isn't just a resource, it's a home, a teacher, and a source of peace. Bhutan was the first country in the world to become carbon negative, absorbing more carbon dioxide than it produces. This is a powerful metaphor for their way of life. They give back more than they take. It's no wonder that many other nations have started looking to Bhutan for inspiration. Countries like the UK and New Zealand have begun adopting well-being budgets, focusing on policies that promote mental health, work-life balance, and social connection. Even Japan, known for its intense work culture, has initiated projects that encourage citizens to work less, live more. But the truth is, adopting a happiness-first mindset isn't about changing government policies. It starts with changing our own perspective. We don't need to move to Bhutan to learn from their example. We can start right where we are by asking ourselves the same question Bhutan asks: what does enough look like for me? What if enough isn't a certain salary or status, but waking up without dread? What if enough is having time for unhurried mornings, heartfelt conversations, and moments of stillness? Imagine creating your own version of a GNH life. A life where your success isn't measured by your bank account, but by the richness of your relationships, the depth of your gratitude, and your ability to rest in the present. The lesson Bhutan teaches us is simple but profound. True wealth isn't about having more, it's about needing less. When we embrace what's already here, we stop chasing happiness and start living it. So, what can you do today to take one small step toward enough? Maybe it's saying no to one more obligation, stepping outside to feel the sun on your face, or simply pausing to take a deep breath and remind yourself, this moment is enough. Because in the end, a life filled with presence, purpose, and peace, that's the real treasure. And you don't need to go to Bhutan to find it. It's already within you, waiting to be noticed. Reclaiming your own enough. We've explored how the relentless chase for more can lead us astray, and how places like Bhutan remind us of the quiet power of living simply with intention. But now let's bring the focus back to you. What does it mean to reclaim your own enough? In today's world, where endless ambition is seen as a virtue, choosing to slow down and live with contentment can feel like rebellion. It means stepping off the treadmill of comparison and deciding, this is enough for me. But how do we get there? How do we unlearn the belief that we need to constantly strive, achieve, and acquire to be worthy of peace and joy? Let's begin with a simple truth. Enough isn't something we find, it's something we choose. 1. Stop measuring your life against someone else's timeline. One of the biggest reasons we feel like we're not enough is because we constantly compare ourselves to others. We scroll through social media and see curated snapshots of other people's successes, the promotions, the vacations, the picture-perfect families, and suddenly our lives feel smaller in comparison. But here's the thing, comparison is a thief. It robs us of gratitude for the life we're living right now. Your journey is yours alone. You don't have to follow someone else's definition of success or happiness. Instead of asking, am I keeping up? Try asking, am I living in alignment with what matters most to me? 2. Reclaim your time. Time is the ultimate non-renewable resource, and yet we spend so much of it on things that don't nourish us. Extra work, obligations we don't really care about, distractions that pull us away from presence. What would it look like to take back your time? Maybe it means blocking off an hour to rest without guilt. Maybe it's saying no to something that doesn't align with your priorities. Every time you reclaim your time, you're making a powerful statement. My peace is more important than my productivity. It's not easy. We've been taught to equate our worth with how much we achieve. But remember, being busy isn't the same as being fulfilled. 3. Practice daily gratitude. Gratitude isn't just a feel-good exercise, it's a perspective shift. When you practice gratitude, you train your mind to focus on what's present rather than what's missing. And over time, that shift creates a deep sense of contentment. Every day, take a moment to reflect. What am I grateful for right now? It doesn't have to be anything grand, a quiet cup of coffee, a phone call with a friend, or even the simple act of being able to breathe deeply. Gratitude turns not enough into more than enough. Or redefine success for yourself. Ask yourself, what does a successful life really look like for me? Is it about recognition and achievements, or is it about connection, purpose, and joy? When we get caught up in external definitions of success, we risk losing sight of our own values. Take time to reflect on what success feels like, not what it looks like. For some, it might mean a thriving career. For others, it could mean spending more time with family or having the freedom to pursue creative passions. Remember, you get to write your own definition of success. 5. Embrace imperfection. A major barrier to contentment is the belief that life needs to be perfect before we can feel at peace. We tell ourselves, once everything is in place, then I'll be happy. But perfection is an illusion. It keeps us waiting for a future that may never come. Instead of striving for perfection, try embracing the beauty of imperfection. Let your messy, unpredictable life be enough, just as it is. Sometimes, the most memorable and meaningful moments come from the unplanned, imperfect parts of life. 6. Create space for joy. Living with enough doesn't mean living with less joy. It means making space for it. What lights you up? What makes you feel alive? Maybe it's time spent outdoors, reconnecting with old friends, or simply taking a quiet moment to reflect. Joy doesn't need to be extravagant or expensive. It's often found in life's smallest, simplest moments. The laughter of a loved one, the scent of fresh rain, or the feeling of soft sheets after a long day. When you slow down and savor these moments, you begin to realize that joy was never far away. It was just waiting for you to notice. Final reflection. Reclaiming your own enough is a radical act of self-love. It's choosing presence over perfection, gratitude over greed, and purpose over pressure. So, take a moment and breathe deeply. Let the rush of the world quiet down for just a moment. Ask yourself, what if I already have everything I need to live a meaningful life? Because when we stop chasing, we start seeing. And when we start seeing, we realize that life's most precious gifts, love, connection, and peace, are already within reach. Remember, you are enough, and this moment, just as it is, can be enough too. Closing reflections. We've reached the end of this journey, but perhaps it's also the beginning of something new, a quieter, more intentional way of living. Today we've explored the illusion of more, the trade-offs between time and wealth, and the sacrifices we often make in the name of success. We've learned from Bhutan's wisdom and reflected on what it means to reclaim our own sense of enough. But before we part ways, let's take a moment to sit with the deeper lesson beneath it all. The world will always tell you that you need to do more, earn more, and be more. Advertisements will whisper that happiness is just one purchase away. Social media will flash images of perfect lives that make your own feel smaller. And the people around you, well-meaning though they may be, might define your worth by your productivity, your status, or your achievements. But here's the truth. You don't have to buy into any of it. Take a deep breath and let this sink in. You are enough exactly as you are, in this moment. The beauty of life isn't found in constant striving. It's found in moments of presence, connection, and gratitude. When you embrace enough, you give yourself permission to slow down and truly live. You begin to notice the small miracles, the quiet morning light spilling through the window, the laughter of someone you love, the simple peace of being here, now. Life well lived isn't measured by wealth. At the end of our lives, we won't count the number of hours we worked or the trophies we earned. We'll remember how we made people feel and how they made us feel in return. We'll treasure the memories of time spent with loved ones, the moments when we felt free to be our authentic selves. And if we're fortunate, we'll look back and say, I was there for it all, the joy and the sorrow, the chaos and the calm. I didn't miss my life. But for many, that realization comes too late. They spend so much time preparing for the future that they forget to live in the present. Don't let that be your story. Embracing a new mindset. Choosing enough doesn't mean you stop striving or pursuing dreams. It means you pursue them from a place of peace rather than desperation. It means you honor your ambitions without letting them consume you. Imagine waking up each day not with a sense of dread or pressure, but with gratitude. Imagine knowing that success isn't about how much you've accomplished, but how much you've lived. An invitation to reflect. So, as we part ways, I invite you to pause and reflect. What moments in your life have made you feel truly alive? When was the last time you gave yourself permission to simply be, without needing to achieve or impress? And most importantly, what would it look like to live a life where enough was your guiding principle? The answers to these questions won't come all at once, and that's okay. Growth happens in the quiet spaces. Clarity often arrives when we give ourselves time to listen. Final thought. As you step back into your day, remember that more is not the path to peace. Peace comes from knowing that you already have access to life's greatest treasures: connection, presence, and love. Take a breath. Let yourself be here right now. This is your life, not tomorrow, not someday, this moment. Thank you for spending your time with me today. If this story resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments. And if you know someone who could use a gentle reminder to slow down and embrace the beauty of enough, feel free to share this with them. Until next time, remember, you are enough, and so is this moment.